and I am sending or waves. Can't hear me? Is there? If you can hear me, please leave this building. Let us continue with our training. Are we good? Which camera is the main one that everyone's seeing me from? That one?
Well, you marketed this one, so.
Okay, it's that one.
Yeah.
Okay, cool.
Move around, grab shots.
Cool. What's up, everybody? Just give us a second. We're trying to get some technical things fixed out. I'm waiting for you guys to give me a thumbs up, and I'll start. Stuart, David, that would be you. All right, we're still waiting. All right, who's missing? We're Amanda. I know she was in a meeting. She's joining. Just Amanda, right? Awesome. We're good? All right. So for those of you who are watching in and are flies on the wall, welcome to the first official session of Marketing with Anik. And what you see here is our marketing team. So I'm going to kick off today. So I'm going to dive right into the first session. There's no reason to do a lot of background. You guys, most of you know what we're here for. We're going to spend the next 15 weeks and more together. My goal is to do these every Friday. Of course, there will be some Fridays that get skipped. In case that happens, we'll send you an email and you'll know about it. But what you see here, this is our Learn Marketing team. And what we are doing for the next weeks to come is I'm going to be trying to transfer as much of my knowledge over to them as possible. We're going to talk about advanced higher level marketing, from how to do Facebook ads to like today's topic, the psychology of a launch, and just all kinds of other things that I find myself still having to do. Now I want to get these things moved over to our marketing department. So just so you guys know, of course, we have, and Amanda, you don't know this yet, but there's a new rule been implemented: no cell phones and no laptops in these meetings. Okay. Yeah. Now, if you're at home and if you want to abide, that'd be awesome too. No cell phones, no laptops. We're trying to avoid Facebook time, Slack time, Skype time, and all of that stuff. Mostly because, for example, today's session, when I go over the psychology of a launch, if you missed even 1 minute or 2 minutes of that chunk, you're probably going to end up missing out on something that's really powerful. So we don't want you missing out on anything. All right, so having said that, guys, I will not be always addressing the camera because that's a little awkward since I'm supposed to be teaching my team. So if you see me teaching the team, just assume I'm talking to you. I believe they can also ask questions. Is that correct? Right, so you should have the ability now. I can't answer every question for everybody that's logged in, but our team here is watching your questions. If something awesome comes up that they think will be helpful to everybody, they'll definitely ask me that question. And for the team in this room, guys, you are to ask as many questions as you want throughout this. This is not a one-way like lecture or a seminar. This is a discussion. So of course, we'll be here about 2 hours. I'll start with a little instruction, but as I teach, if you've got questions, throw up your hands. We're going to also do some exercises. So what's going to be cool is I'll kind of go through examples, and then we're going to plan a launch together today. So which you guys will lead. And so once I walk you through a couple that I've done, once we talk about the psychology of a launch, I'll give you guys a chance to do that. And everyone who's watching, you'll get a chance to listen in and watch also. So having said that, as I've been joking with Amanda, I think, Samad, you may not have heard this yet, but I've decided that my third favorite word for 2019 is going to be psychology. Last year, if you were around me long enough, you'd hear me say, pivot, and this is your favorite word. Literally. Well, not literally, but yes, specificity, a word that I can't even pronounce. But we will talk about that also throughout this next weeks to come, about why it's so important to be very specific in marketing and not generic. Pivot was there because marketing is a living animal. You cannot make plans and then stick to them in marketing. It's the one place. You can't do it. You can't run it like an operations team or a tech team or anything like that. You got to be willing to pivot, because as the market gives you data, you got to pivot. Well, this year, the third word I'm adding is psychology, and here's why. Because the biggest thing that I see when marketers are out there doing something is they put something out with the assumption that just because they said it or just because it's put out there, that it's actually going to be read and that people will actually care. And that is where I'm finding the big secret to marketing, good marketing lies, is you can't assume that just because you wrote something or put something out there that they're actually going to read it. You have to have the reason, you have to give them a reason why. And ironically, it's that very thought process that allows for amazing launches. That's why I'm able to do 7, 8-figure launches. I mean, I think our company's record launch was $11.6 million in 3 weeks. That doesn't just happen, you know, by chance. That is quite by design and with a lot of pivots. And we're going to talk about all that today. Now, we don't necessarily at Learn do a lot of these public launches anymore. We might do like one a year or so. We do a lot of internal launches now. And that was specifically by design for a lot of other reasons we can talk about one other day. But we do a lot of internal program releases and launches. And funny enough, the psychology is pretty much the same. The things we say might change, right? Because now I'm talking to a very targeted audience. But the psychology is pretty much exactly the same. So we're going to walk through the entire process of it. I'm going to walk us through 2 different launches. So everything I teach, then we'll see live examples of how I implemented that in Marketing with Anik, which I think everyone here can relate to. It was just launched. It was just done. If you're watching, you obviously bought into the campaign. So I'll walk you through the behind the scenes on that, how I planned it, how I set it up. That was a very successful launch. I mean, we did, I don't know, probably with the upsells and everything, it was like $170,000 in a course of a couple weeks off of a $97 product. And that's pretty friggin' epic. All internal. Like, we didn't have any outside support, any affiliates. And so how do you get that? That doesn't just, now here's the thing. So some people would dissect that launch and say, well, I see Anik put up a sales video on a sales page, and he put up an offer, 15 weeks, $97, and they'll try to hack that, right? They'll try to copy that, and then they'll try to do it themselves, and the results will be probably 5 or 10% of what our results were, and they'll wonder why. Well, it's because there's so much more that went on behind the scenes of the Marketing with Anik launch that we're going to talk about today. We're going to put it out there. Then my favorite launch still till today in the last couple of years remains the Copywriting Academy launch. Because if there's one launch I've done in the last year and a half where I think we really, really solidified the psychology aspect of it, it was the Copywriting Academy launch. So we're gonna go through that from head to toe, exactly what we did, why we did it, and how pretty much anything you see me do in marketing, even if it's weeks out, it's usually by design. It's not accidental. 90% of the time it's by design. 10% of the time it's by pivot, meaning something did happen, something I wasn't expecting happened, and so I grab onto that and then I run with it. And then the third thing that we're going to, so after we go through those 2 examples, I'm going to turn over to the group our Amazon launch. So we have a product called Physical Profits that's coming out. So if you're watching, we have a product that's called Physical Profits coming out most likely in March. And this would be right around the time. Actually, ideally we would have been planning it a month ago, but we're good timing now to plan out the entire launch. So I'll turn that over to you guys, and you can throw some things at it, and we'll see how it works. All right, so first and foremost, we're going to talk about copywriting, but this is very important. Because, so copywriting is a big part of a strong launch. Copywriting is actually a very key part of a strong launch, all the way from the pre-launch down to the actual copy, down to the sales, down to the webinar, down to the selling. But one thing I want everyone to understand is launches are no longer, a powerful launch does not happen from good copywriting. Because a powerful launch actually happens from everything that takes place before the copywriting. Before your end consumer ever even reads or sees your actual sales message, good copywriting takes place. Or sorry, yeah, basically a launch is successful before that even happens. This is why most of the time that I'm doing a product launch, the day before we actually go to cart, I can very accurately predict how it's going to do. Because you'll always hear me say this. I'll say, check the pulse of the list. Check the pulse of your audience. You can see how excited they are, how engaged they are. Are they responding to your emails? Are they clicking like? Are they leaving comments? Are they, sometimes, so for example, during Marketing with Anik, you would have seen this as well. I did a survey. I don't know if any of you were on that sub list, but I did a survey to the sub list asking some questions. Now, first of all, I actually wanted the answers to that. It was good data for us for 2019. But what most people wouldn't know, it was a survey done by very specific design. I wanted to see engagement. I wanted to see how active that list was. I knew I can apply certain percentages. I understood that if I can get above, let's say, we had a list of about 2,500 people at that point that were on the pre-alert announcement, I'm interested list. I understood that if I can get 20 or 30% of them to at least reply to a survey, they're engaged. That's a very engaged audience. And I think we got exactly that. If I remember correctly, it was about 30% of the people, or a little bit less, maybe 25%. But whatever the number was, it was big enough. And then when I sent the survey, I wasn't just watching for how many people responded. I was even watching, this is what I mean when I say watch the pulse of a launch. I was even watching for how quickly they responded. So I was most interested to see how many responses I got in the first 3 hours versus the first 3 days. Because the more responses I would get in the first 3 hours meant I've got people that are sitting at the tip of their chairs, waiting, hungry to hear about what's going on with this campaign. And when that happens, the truth is, I mean, your copy doesn't matter, right? They're just ready to buy. That's a great launch. When what you're actually saying on the sales page or the sales video or the webinar, it doesn't even matter. They came into it ready to buy. Best example I'll give you is like a Black Friday line in front of a store. Right? There's a line of people, they're there because they know you're going to have a big sale. Do you really think when they walk in, it's going to matter whether the sign you have inside is blue, yellow, or red? They probably won't even look at it. They already know. They're lined up. They're ready to go. So during a launch, before the launch, I'm always trying to do things differently and keep them engaged and active. The reason is, in this situation with Marketing with Anik, I saw that the list was very active. I could see that the results came in fast, the responses were coming fast. But what if I had seen that they didn't? What if I had seen that the results were not, that the responses were not coming fast or the people were not active? Well, I did it about 3 or 4 days before launch. I'd still have 3 or 4 days to pivot and figure something out to get them excited. And it is usually about, I would say about 70% now of the launches I plan, about 70 or 80% of the time, I'll be right. I'll have them active from the get-go because I planned it right from the beginning. About 20 to 30% of the time it won't be, and I'll actually need to do a pivot. Of those 20 to 30%, 50% of the time I can save it. I can pivot and get something going and get that list re-engaged. 50% of the time I can't. So that still means that even today, 10, 15, maximum 20% of the launches that even I plan, they don't work out. Just because, we were missing some piece of the nugget that was really important, whether it was early on, we were just doing something that people didn't care about, or whether it was later on, prime example, Marketing with Anik, right? Super interested, people are excited. We're going to dissect, we're going to go through the hooks, angles, and offer, and all, like what we did with it. Super excited, super engaged, ready to go, want to be here. But then all of a sudden we go cart open page, or we go live, and it was $10,000 to join. So what would happen? Instantly that excitement would deflate because the offer wasn't right. Right? It's not necessarily the price. We sell tons of workshops and seminars and things in this company for $10,000 or more. So it's not the price, it's the offer. It's that the value, they weren't ready to spend that kind of money. So even though I had everything working perfectly, I had all the excitement there, I had all the pulse there, I had all the feelings there, everything was good, I missed one piece of the puzzle and it can all fall apart. So that's why in order to do a great launch, in order to do a 7, 8-figure launch, every piece has to be as accurately on point as possible. So coming back to the point of copywriting, what copywriting is, in a launch, copywriting has minimal impact. What has most impact is the environment. So in this company, when we have a launch coming up, the first thing we look to do is create omnipresence around that topic. So when Marketing with Anik was coming out, if you go back and actually look at my emails, you will see that for a good few days minimum before we even started the pre-launch of Marketing with Anik, there was omnipresence around that topic. We were talking about the topics that would be talked about within Marketing with Anik. We were changing the way people were thinking. We were changing the conversation, right? So that's like, instead of waking up one day and saying, hey, traffic is the most important thing in your business. You need traffic. When they've never heard that message, and then 2 days later trying to sell them a product about traffic, rather than that, spend the week before and start teasing them with traffic. Hey, look what I got 2 million clicks to my business this year, and it was the main reason why we did so much, why we were so successful. The next day is, look at Alex. We helped Alex get over 300,000 clicks, and it completely changed his life. And then the third day you say, by the way, you know you can get clicks for free. This is another case study where 100,000 people got clicks for free. So what you're doing is you never actually said traffic is the most important thing, but slowly you're actually trickling that thought process into the consumer on their own. And so you do that for 7 days, and on day 8, you're like, by the way, are you interested in getting more traffic? Do you think traffic would make a big impact in your life and could make a big change in your business? Well, hey, I've got something free for you. I've got something that you should think about. So that 7 days is what most launches are missing. When I see launches being planned, it's that first 7 days, or that first 2 weeks, or first 3 weeks that is missing. The one launch where I think I've done that the most masterfully was Copywriting Academy. Oh, you can't see it. That's on my notes, so you can't see it. Copywriting Academy, and it was because we gave it time, right? So when you're trying to do too much at one time, and you're trying to launch too many products at one time, you'll never be able to do either one good justice. With Marketing with Anik, we gave that thing weeks before we started laying the framework, laying the groundwork with all of our different segments and different audiences, saying the right things to get them into it. And I would be on webinars, or I'd be on lives, and I would actually say, hey, okay, you know what? Copywriting is the #1 skill you need, blah, blah, blah. This is what I've been able to do with it. I'm going to teach it to you today. We're going to talk about it. How many of you would be more interested in learning more about copywriting? How many of you would be more interested if I put out a free course about copywriting, completely free course, and taught you what it's taken me 15 years to learn? Type in the #1 into the comments. Type in the #1. Click me. Tell you what, take this survey. If enough people say yes, if at least 500 people say yes, I'll release a free course. Now the thing is, I already got a free course, right? But I want that to be their idea. So that's how I'm teasing it into the market. I'm getting them interested by saying, do you want this? They're saying yes, so that when I do release it, they're already committed to it. They're going to take it simply because they 2 weeks before had said they want it. So it's that omnipresence, and when we talk about omnipresence, we'll continue that conversation. In an internal launch in this company and learn, we're a little bit different than most people. So this may not apply to a lot of you that are watching, but we have all these different segments, right? We have buyers who've bought Facebook Academy. We've got a bunch of buyers who bought Copywriting Academy. We've got a bunch of buyers who bought Inbox Blueprint, Zero Up. We have our master's students that are at a different level of commitment to the company and to the cause and to becoming an entrepreneur. So if you want to do a launch perfectly, you can't talk to each of those segments the same way, because you're just not hitting the right. Each one's a different avatar. So let's go through this. I've got my Facebook group, right? My Facebook Academy group. These guys, if someone invests actual money into buying a Facebook course, that tells you a lot about them. Or you know what? Forget buying the course. If they invest time and energy to even enroll into a course, a free course about Facebook, that tells you a lot about them. They're more senior, at least in their thinking. That doesn't mean they have a business. It doesn't mean they're successful, but they understand enough about an online business, about becoming an entrepreneur, about success, that they understand that there's this thing called Facebook advertising that they need to pay money for, pay for ads. All of that teaches you something about them. Then you go to copywriting. Anyone who's engaged with copywriting is probably even one level more senior than someone who's engaged in Facebook, because copywriting is a very, very high-end skill. It's something that you only learn about or talk about when you really feel the importance of being able to sell through the written word. I mean, it's not everyone. You don't just see someone on the street walking around. You can see anyone on the street walking around and say, hey, you want to make more money? They'll say yes. And you walk up anyone on the street and say, hey, you want to learn copywriting? They'll be like, what? So that tells you enough about that audience, right? Then you go to the audience that's been interested in Inbox Blueprint, probably our biggest audience we have. But you know for a fact that they are much more newbie. They are still thinking about, the two words make money probably resonate the most with that audience, not some of the more complicated terminology. And then you look at like our master's students, right? If we're going to market to our master's students, well, let's think of a couple of things. They've already made a $15,000 or more commitment to becoming an entrepreneur. They spent time, energy, and money to physically be present here for a workshop with us. They have had intimate time with the leadership at Learn. They are a family, they're a group, they help one another. There's tremendous success stories coming out of that group. So they're successful, they're next level. Most of them are professionals usually because they were able to save up enough money to come to the workshop. But what I also happen to know about Learn Masters, which a lot of people may not know, but I know, is that a lot of them are into the e-com business model. Like a ton of them right now are doing e-com. They love doing e-com. Plus we have a lot of coaches and consultants. Those are the two demographics that somehow we have a lot of in Masters. So if I'm planning my Amazon product launch, that knowledge is very important when I go to talk to Masters. I can't go to them with the same message that I go to with the copywriters. Now, that's pretty complicated, right? Like it's a lot of work because we have what? How many avatars do we have in the company, guys? Six. We have six. We determined we have 6 different avatars. So we essentially have to create 6 different communication channels. Now, we won't always do this. Okay? I didn't do it with Marketing with Anik because I didn't have the kind of time to do it. But when you really want to double, triple, quadruple down on a launch and you want to soak out every possible opportunity from it, you have to create those different channels of communication. Now, when we do a public launch, so when we go after launches where other affiliates are promoting, we don't realize this, but that's exactly why affiliate-driven launches do so well. Because your affiliates create, the best ones at least, create those channels of communication for you. So when I used to be an affiliate for someone, it was rare for me not to win #1. I would almost always destroy our competition. But I would never, not once, in any product launch that I ever participated in as an affiliate, would I ever use their standard material. Their standard webinar, their standard PDF giveaway, their standard videos for the pre-launch, none of it. Wouldn't use any of it. I'd create my own. Because I know my audience. I know what to say to them. I know what they're used to hearing from me. They're used to hearing a certain type of message and a certain tone of message and a certain level of energy in a message. So I would control that entire process up and until the very end. When there's a pitch, I'd let the person who pitches come on and pitch their product, but I owned the conversation. So what I was doing and that's why my conversions would be so awesome. Now, a great product launch, you got 10 or 15 of these going on at the same time. So all of these affiliates are optimizing their communication with their audiences on your behalf. Now, at Learn, we're basically becoming our own affiliate. We're starting to create these different avatars, go deep in them, and have a huge audience in each one. But that means we still have to be able to talk to these audiences differently if we want them to buy. Plus, we have to be aware enough. So, for example, Facebook advertising audience, someone who's actively advertising, should they be buying an Amazon product? I don't know. But in time, as we grow at Learn, there will be products that the answer is no, they should not. So hence, let's not send them that product. Let's respect them enough to only show them. But that week, you know what? Let's talk to them about something else. We have a different product that does apply to Facebook marketers. And that's how you start to make those tweaks and start to pull out that extra 10, 15% efficiency out of your audience in not only conversion, but in relationship building. So knowing which audiences you're talking to and what message to go after with them is really important. And so with Copywriting Academy, we didn't do much of this with Marketing with Anik, mostly because Marketing with Anik was $97. And so you have to also understand the level of complexity you add to your marketing has to be pretty much directly proportional to the price point. So the higher the price point, the more complexity you have to add to the marketing, the more tailored messaging you have to have. If it's $97, it still falls into the impulse purchase category. So you don't have to do as much. If the message is really strong, people will buy it, especially if the relationship with the authority that's behind it is strong. They'll still buy it. But you know, we even segment, during Copywriting Academy's launch, we did a lot of audience segmenting. And the biggest segment that I did go after is my customers versus non-customers. So we have these webinars that we do inside Learn. For anyone who's a paying customer of Learn, you get to come on once a week to these webinars. Well, we did a whole warm-up sequence to them and an entire marketing campaign to them that was different than the rest of our list. Why? Just the fact alone that they've spent money tells me something about them that allows me to talk to them more firmly, more differently, more honestly, more upfront, less hype, more reality. So my entire webinar, my tonality, my messaging changed on that webinar versus the one that I did with the non-buyers, knowing very well that these people have never spent a penny with me. I have to pull money out of them. So I'm going to talk to them differently. So the first thing that you need to do when you are planning a launch is you just have to sit down and say, what audience am I going after? Who is the person that's going to see this? You nail that down, and that's going to lead you to the next thing, which is super, super important. And I think, you know, probably something that when I teach copywriting, or anyone teaches copywriting, you're going to hear the most, and that is hook. Like, and hook, you know, there's so many ways to describe or explain the word hook, but it comes down to this. Why do I care? Why do I care? Why should I be giving you attention right now? And this is where we go back to that point when I said, you know, you can't just put out a message and expect it'll work simply because you put it out there. Just because you sold a product for, okay, so we did marketing with Anik, we did $170,000+ or whatever through the whole funnel and everything. That doesn't mean that if we go tomorrow and launch another $97 product that we can go to our financials and mark the number $170,000 and expect that to come in. Because you have to sit down and figure out, okay, why did marketing with Anik do, and it wasn't the price point. Because I promise you right now I can launch the same funnel and do a completely different topic, and I can't even, I could probably stop myself from even doing $1,000 in sales. It was the entire hook and the why do I care. So when I was planning marketing with Anik, I sat down and I said, okay, why would someone care about this? Why would someone care about this? Okay, so for example, first and foremost, 15 weeks of training with someone who has 15 years of experience is pretty awesome. Typically for me, I don't even do private coaching anymore, but if I did, I wouldn't even entertain anything for less than $2,000 or $3,000 an hour. The only way you get to have me in front of you and teach you in an intimate environment, you have to be a master. You have to come here. That's $15,000. So the value, the underlying value of that has been set up. I understand that people understand that they don't just have easy access. And that right there starts to become a why do I care. So if you go back and look at my pre-launch marketing, I actually leaned on the price. Most of the time people will say don't lean on the price. I actually leaned on the price because I started prepping them for saying, listen, this is going to cost you less than a television set. And so I'm drawing excitement, or I'm drawing intrigue. So someone is saying, man, 15 weeks with Anik should probably be pretty expensive. But what does he mean less than a television? Okay, I'm interested. You got my. Now, why do I care? I care because I'm intrigued. What do you got going on? What is this? All right. Second thing is we see so much of beginner level training. It's all over the internet. But I want to do advanced level stuff selfishly because I was like, look, I'm tired of teaching what a freaking opt-in page is. Like, I have more to offer. I want to teach more advanced stuff. And the truth is, I want to teach it to you guys so that, you know, if I teach it once in this room here, hopefully I don't have to repeat this again individually. Why are you guys laughing? Sean was the first one, and Abraham burst out laughing.
I saw Ben's face. That's what I go with that.
Repetition is the key to success, right? So I don't think that'll happen. But then I started extrapolating that, and here's the hook came to me. I'm like, okay, I want to teach more advanced stuff. That in itself is a crappy hook because it's not specific enough. It's too generic, right? So I literally took that. I said, okay, it's exciting, people will say, cool, Anik, I do want to learn advanced stuff, but what do you mean? So I took that thought and I put it to the side. I said, okay, that is an obstacle that I need to get by. I'm going to have an objection, or I'm going to have a confusion. Rather than objection, I'm going to have a confusion that I'll need to address. But I wanted to make this, I wanted to come up with a hook and an angle that everyone could kind of understand. It would create intrigue, and innately it would deliver the understanding that there's advanced marketing. And so I asked myself, I said, well, why am I doing, because this Friday sessions, these were planned. We were already planning on doing these for this team. And so I said, well, why am I doing these? I said, well, I'm doing them because I want the team to step up, and I want to be able to go off and do other things, and I don't want to be actively doing marketing every day. So as I thought about that, I said, oh, so I'm basically firing myself. And I want to replace myself. That's why I'm doing this teaching. And that was where the entire marketing messaging of I'm firing myself as this chief marketing officer came out from. So think about that. That's a pretty crazy statement. For anyone who's been following me for a while, they know I'm a marketer, right? They also, without me having to say anything, most people who have been in Learn's circle of influence know Learn's a pretty big company. You know, industry leaders, pretty big. They see the office, they see the videos, they see the numbers, they see the brand presence, they see the Facebook ads. That's the omnipresence. I don't need to say it; they know it. So the subconscious connection that I can create in the behind the scenes is someone says, "Wait a minute, I know they're a big company. I know Anik's the main marketer behind it. If Anik feels confident enough to fire himself as the chief marketing officer, I wonder what the heck he's going to teach these people." And so nowhere, you know, in the early days of the marketing, I didn't say that. I just let that be assumed by people. So the hook and angle that I came up with was, can you imagine what I would teach someone who I need to replace me to run my own business? You can pretty much bet on the fact that it would be the best of the best I got, because they're running my business. Selfishly, I have to teach them the best I got. Secondly, it's going to be advanced. It has to be advanced stuff because we're way past, Learn's way past what an opt-in page is. You know, we don't talk about that in-house anymore. We talk about advanced techniques on how to get better results from our Facebook ads and this and that. So I thought, okay, in a good launch, it's one thing to get someone's attention. Okay, so that was another word I have here that I've like circled again and again, and that is the hook's job really is to get their attention. So it's the big, you know, it's the big flashy sign that says stop. If you're driving on a road and you want someone to stop and you jump out in front of them with a massive sign, they'll probably stop. So you got their attention. You got them to stop. But if you just stood there and you didn't do anything and you just stood with a sign in front of them, how long before they either take a U-turn and go or they go around you? How long before they're like, all right, I don't like, what the heck is this? What's going on? So it's one thing to get someone to stop. So that's how I did it. I'm firing myself as chief marketing officer. What? What? But if that's it, if I just leave it at that, then they're going to say, well, good for you, Anik, all the best, you know, like I'm going to go off on my way. But I follow it with, now here are the 15 things that I'm like leaving to the company as I go off on my way. The 15 things they need to know in order to be able to replace me. And now the person, see, to carry a conversation forward, then this is the next thing we're going to talk about, which is the journey. Then now the person is thinking, what are the 15 things? So I need the prospect to be asking questions. That's how you keep their attention. You need the prospect to be constantly thinking about things. See, the way you get someone to consume something is by answering or giving them something they're thinking about. That's why a pre-launch is so important, because in a very well-crafted pre-launch, you actually subconsciously give them the questions. You tell them what questions to ask, they start to ask them, and lo and behold, you have the perfect video, you have the perfect free report, you have the perfect webinar that will answer all said questions. And hence the people show up, and hence the people watch, and hence the people get excited and interested because they already had the question in their mind but that was actually subliminally placed by you. So how are you going to keep their attention? In my particular situation, I needed them to ask the question, Anik, what 15 things are you going to teach them? The minute I get them to ask that question, 80% of my sales job is done. Right? So we always talk about in copywriting, we say there's 5 stages to getting a sale. There's the intro, there's the story, there's the content, there's the transition, and then there's the pitch. And I always say that it is during the content that you will actually sell someone. It is not in the pitch. Nobody gets sold in a pitch. It's too late. You get sold in the content. You get to confirm the sale in a pitch, but you can't sell someone in a pitch. You sell them in the content. So the minute they ask me, what are the 15 things you're teaching, I am at the content level. I have got them. They are ready to buy. As long as the offer is right, I will kill that sale. I'll close it. And in this case, I already knew the offer is going to be freaking epic, so I just need them to ask me that question. That question was how I planned my pre-launch. So if you go back and look at the pre-launch, it's, Anik, what 15 things are you going to teach? Now, here's the thing. 15 is a big number. It's too overwhelming, right? A mind can't process that many things, so I brought it down to what I felt was processable, okay? 3 main things I have to teach my team before I can step down as CMO. Traffic conversion funnels. If I can teach them traffic conversion and funnels, they're going to be empowered to make this, to grow this company 10x. Traffic conversion and funnels. So do you see how with every single day throughout the pre-launch, I am answering a question and I am also creating a question. So the first thing I said is, I'm firing myself as Chief Marketing Officer. Keep watching, keep listening for more, how this could benefit you. I'm firing myself as Chief Marketing Officer, and that will actually benefit you. And so that immediately makes someone think, how? Well, wait till tomorrow, I'll let you know. The next day, well, I'm going to be teaching my team 15 things, and I'll give you an opportunity to listen in as I teach them these 15 things. Imagine what I would teach them if it's enough for me to be able to step down after I teach it to them. So that's like, whoa, I wonder what these 15 things are. And then day 3, it's like, well, I'll give you a hint. I'll give you a clue about what the 15 things are. They all fit into one of these 3 categories: funnels, conversions, traffic. All words that are trigger words in our space that they will relate to, they'll know. But what question, so someone tell me, once they hear, here are the 3 things, funnel, conversion, traffic, what do you think the consumer may be thinking after that? What could be a question in their mind? Anyone, shout anything out.
How will this knowledge benefit me?
Yeah. How will this benefit me? Or even simpler, what about them?
Yeah, what about it?
What about them? I got it. I know funnel, conversion, traffic. What about them? So at that time, I thought, yeah, what about them? What do I say about this that continues to, why do I care? Continues to further the why do I care? How do I keep their attention? And then all of a sudden, I remember when I was thinking through the launch, I thought, wait, it's the end of 2018. 2019 is coming. It's a perfect opportunity. And as a matter of fact, it just happens to be, I did learn a bunch of things in 2018, and there are a bunch of things that I want to carry forward into 2019. So this is a perfect opportunity. I will teach my team, I'll teach them the 3 things, the funnel conversion, how they're changing, what to know about them coming forward in 2019. So I turned it into almost like a news article, like a latest and greatest, like just in, you know, this is what to expect in 2019. This is how you get ahead in 2019. And then as I was doing the planning, I thought, wow, that would be a great angle and hook for the entire Marketing with Anik launch. Like, basically it's, hey, do you want to get ahead in 2019 rather than be always behind and wait for someone to launch a course? Let's get 6 months ahead. So that's why if you see my pre-launch, I created a series of pages, 1 page devoted to funnels, 1 page devoted to traffic, 1 page devoted to conversion, in which I have predictions on each page. And as you read the page, trust me, Marketing with Anik is blatantly in front of you, built right in there. Subconsciously, I'm constantly putting you in there, and I'm saying, if you think this is good, wait till you see what I launch on. So I have been, at that point, I think when we did the Marketing with Anik launch, I had been talking about Marketing with Anik to the list before we actually went cart live, probably for about 10 days. But not the same message every day, right? So if so Stuart, if I sent you a message today, I said, Marketing with Anik's coming out, you'd say, okay, cool. Like, you're cool, dude. I'll look into it. Like, what is it? Like, it's fine. It's coming, right, though? I'll look at it when it's coming. And then on Monday, I'm like, Marketing with Anik's coming out. They're like, I know, you told me that yesterday, but thanks. And then Tuesday, I'm like, Marketing with Anik is coming out. Like, do you have a problem? Like, I got you. And then Wednesday, I'm like, hey, Stuart, do you know Marketing with Anik is coming out? It's like, okay, this guy's just weird. So at some point, I actually end up irritating you to the degree you don't even care anymore. When Marketing with Anik does come out, you're like, thank God now you will stop bugging me about it. But you don't. That's not the mindset I want for. But what if on Saturday I'm like, hey, I've got something really big coming out. I'm going to give you the ability to work with me for 15 weeks. It's called Marketing with Anik. Just watch your email. You'll say, oh, okay, cool. And then on Sunday, I say, hey, 2018's ending. I've got some crazy predictions for you. Do you want to know what's going to happen in 2019? It's coming out soon. You say, yeah, I am. And then on Monday, I'm like, by the way, I've figured it out. For 2019, you have to stay focused in one of these 3 areas. You have to master these 3 areas: conversions, funnels, and so you say, okay, so every day I'm delivering content. Every day you're having a little bit of an aha moment. Every day I'm giving you something new. But what happens is every time you click over to that and you read a little bit about it, at the bottom it says, hey, Stuart, Marketing with Anik is coming out. And so my message wasn't about it, but I still got my message to you. But I delivered you content and value and then sent my message. I didn't irritate you. If anything, I got you thinking, man, is this the kind of stuff that's going to be in it? It's kind of cool. And then the next day, I'm like, top 3 things you need to know about funnels. The next day, I'm top 3 things you need to know about traffic. The next day, it's top 3 things you need to know about conversion. So the biggest thing I've done there is I've created a journey that doesn't have repetitive messaging, but it's building to the eventual goal. So by the time freaking Marketing with Anik is live, and most of you watching right now, I bet you'll agree, didn't even care what the heck the page said. It didn't matter. You were sold. You were waiting. You're like, when's 10 a.m. going to hit so I can go buy this thing? And so hence, the copy didn't even matter. But there was so much psychology put into that week and a half or 2 weeks before the launch where every single subject line, message, headline was thought about, was meticulously picked on to make sure that I'm delivering something that'll keep your attention and keep your interest, and also continue to make you realize that whatever I've got coming is of value to you, right? There's another reason why having funnels, traffic, and conversion, the 3 things, is really helpful. This was a happy coincidence, but here's the deal. If you're interested in internet marketing, you physically cannot be interested in internet marketing without having an interest in at least 1, funnels, traffic, or conversion. So this is how I addressed the whole, this offer isn't specific enough. I addressed it by getting it more specific and being able to talk to each person. So even though you may not care crap about conversion, but you're like, oh, you're going to talk about traffic too? What you got there? So now I got you, right? And I'm able to hold on to your attention. So and that's why I said, that was why with this particular offer, I didn't need to go talk to my different segments differently. The pre-launch innately had that covered. There were different topics that would basically relate to different people. Now, the last piece here that I really want to go over, so I wanted to connect that. The more reasons you have to mail your audience, the better your launch is going to be. But notice how I didn't say the more emails you send, the better your launch will be. I said the more reasons you have to mail your list, the better your launch will be. Okay? So this is where we start to do fun things like segmenting. Right? So if I mail in the morning, I get a 10% open rate. What does that mean? What am I looking for?
Disconnect.
No, not necessarily. Just very simple.
90% of your people have opened up your email, so you have 90% of the people.
Precisely. Means 90% of the people did not get my message. So, do I really need to carry the conversation forward to those people? I need to hit them again with my message. And here's the thing, guys. You have to understand this with email marketing. Without fail, you will get another 10%. So usually what we see, and you've done this enough now a few times, when we send out a broadcast to our big audience, we have 15, 18, 17% open rate. It's pretty good for the size of audience we're sending to. Do you know that if we send the exact friggin' same email with a bit of a different subject line, again, to the non-opens, we get another 10% open rate on the non-opens? And think about it. Yes, I sent 2 emails in the same day, but I sent it to the people that never opened my email. So they didn't really get harassed by me. It could have just been bad timing. They could have been doing something different. Time zones, we got people from all over the world. So, but now I've got, instead of having had 17% of my audience engaged in my message and thinking what I wanted them thinking that day, I got 27% of my audience now engaged. That's freaking massive. So that's why segmenting with your emails can do a huge, huge, huge impact. Yeah.
How long will you wait before you send that second email to the 90% that did not open?
I don't have a rule on it. It depends on when I sent the first email. So if my first email went out at like 3 p.m., I have to wait till the next day. It's just that, it's just the way it is. But if my first email went out at 6 a.m., yeah, I might send another one by 6 or 7 p.m. Because the truth is, 70 to 80% of your opens happen within the first like few hours, first 12 hours. After that, you still get trickle opens, don't get me wrong. But like the bulk of it has happened in that first like 12 hours. So I'll send it. Now, I won't do this every day, right? Because then you can also, it just gets annoying then. It's too repetitive. It's too predictable. You don't really ever want marketing to be predictable. So I do it when I need to. I do it more aggressively early in a campaign. Why? Okay, tell me why I would do it more aggressively early in a campaign. So this leans right on psychology.
Engagement.
What's that?
Engagement.
Yeah. I want to increase the audience size that I have a chance to engage into my campaign. So the first 2-3 days, I'll draw out the way I do a launch, like the timeline of a launch, and I stretch the beginning out as much as I can. I stretch it. Why? I want to get as many people because I don't know my list. You know, today it's nice and sunny in one part of the world. It's the best weather they've had, and they're all out and about, and they're busy, and they're not reading emails from Anik. Or the time I sent it, it's 10 p.m. They've gone to bed. By the time they wake up at 8 a.m., they have like 19 other emails. Mine got lost. Or they're on vacation with their family. Or something happened in their life. So they didn't not read my email because they don't care or they're not interested. They just didn't catch it at that moment. So I try to stretch out my pre-buzz building as much as possible. So I think of it this way. Like everyone I can, here's a room, okay? This is gonna be like my qualified audience. Let's face it, 80% of my buyers are gonna come from this group of people that are in here already. I wanna spend as much time gathering as many people and dumping them into that room as possible. Notice how that's all happening maybe 2 weeks before I ever go open cart. Whereas everyone focuses on the launch time. So I was reading this great case study from someone, brilliant case study, where how they use Facebook ads to do launches, okay? And I had been doing that for the longest time, but they confirmed it. They tracked it and confirmed it with data. They literally said that they determined that, so in a launch, maybe you have your first free gift, right? And then you have like a second free gift, and maybe you have a third free gift, and then you have your launch. They determined that 60 to 70% of their ad spend has to be done on the first gift. The rest don't matter. They'll do like 10%, 10%, and then 10% on retargeting to the sales page. But 60 to 70% of the ad spend is going to happen early on, 2 weeks before, right into that first, because that's what they're doing. They're gathering as many people around them in this one room, and they just know beyond that, they're going to double down on that room. They know that most of their conversions, most of their hyperactive buyers, and most of their upsell buyers, meaning you also got to remember something. It's the people that have been engaging with you for 2+ weeks that are pumped and excited. They're going to buy your upsells the most. We see it all the time. The upsell conversion we had for marketing with Anik was far higher in the first 3-4 hours than it was in the trail has been getting lower and lower because you have less interested people. But your best, warmest audience has been waiting. They're excited. They know the value of what you're offering. They're going to buy more stuff from you. So you want to spend as much time and energy. So when I'm sending emails and all of that, early on in the campaign, I'm trying my best to get as many possible human eyes into it so that more and more people are thinking. Because if they get into this, so the whole like, hey, my marketing predictions for 2019, you know, Abraham may have been on a vacation on Saturday, didn't even see that campaign. He didn't even get intrigued into it. But on Sunday, he's back. He sees a message. He goes, oh, what's this? And he opens it, and he reads, oh, Anik is going to have emails coming out this entire week where he's going to do predictions. Cool. I want to be a little bit more attentive to Anik's emails this week. Versus I never mailed him that on Sunday at all. And on Monday, I mail him something about traffic. And he doesn't. He's a copywriter. He doesn't care about traffic. Just lost him for the whole week. He's just not going to care. I mean, I can still get him back in, maybe on the day that's conversion and all, but how much better would it be to have gotten him in on Sunday and having him excited about the whole week, reading everything, and absorbing the campaign from day one? So that is exactly why I really, really try as much as possible to find more reasons to mail. Okay, so the prime example, the survey that we did, that I did during Marketing with Anik. That's a old and used technique of mine. It's a reason to mail. I was like sitting there, I'm like, okay, I have used the word prediction like 52 times in the last week. I've done this, I've done that. The launch is 2 days away. The rate at which my pre-alert list is building has slowed down, right? So what can I do? How do I mail them? So I thought of a bunch of things. I can do a contest, I could do a giveaway, but I don't want to do a contest or a giveaway before a launch. It's weird. Like it's going to distract them. It's going to get them all interested in freebies and all this. So I could do a survey. Survey is a great reason to mail. Now, I don't have to mention anything about my mark. I don't have to be like, hey, Stuart, Marketing with Anik's coming out. But I can say, hey, Stuart, do you have 2 minutes? I'm planning my 2019. Can you take the survey? He's like, okay. Opens a survey. First question. Hey, Stuart, are you planning on buying Marketing with Anik? But done a little bit more skillfully, right? And so I'm still getting my message out. I'm still getting him to think. Like it's like today is Friday. I really need Stuart to think about Marketing with Anik. What do I do? Well, let me throw a survey out, and question number 2, 3, and 4 will be about Marketing with Anik. And I got Stuart thinking about Marketing with Anik. So something as simple as that to something as what we visually see more often, such as pre-launch video, pre-launch video 2, pre-launch video 3, or whatever. So one of so to continue talking about this, like one of the funnels that I pioneered a few years ago, which was really fun. I mean, it wasn't just me; it was a group of us. But I was going off of data that I was seeing, and it was purely for the benefit of more reasons to mail. This is exactly what the funnel would look like. So I'm going to wipe this clean. It would there would be a free book. There would be a contest. So we would do like leave a comment, click share, get our launch more viral so that we get more and more people to the free book, so that our ad spend gets more versatile. There would be webinar 1. There would be encore 1. There would be replay. Now this is the funnel never came out like this. This is how it evolved into, but you'll see like how blatantly we took the whole rule of more reasons to mail. There will be a webinar 2. There will be an we didn't do encore 2. There would be a replay 2. There would be a webinar 3. There would be an encore 3. There would be a replay 3. There would be an open Q&A. There would be scarcity. Then the launch would actually close, and there'd be reopen announcement for 24 hours. The launch that we did that was $11.6 million, this is what we did. Just think for a moment, in a span of 3 weeks, there was not a single day that I did not have something new to announce or say to communicate to that audience. We started with all the affiliates and everybody bashing away our free book. Got this massive audience built here. We actually built a 72,000 person pre-launch audience. It's a big pool of people, right? And we were selling a $3,000 product. After that, we did a contest in here specifically because we wanted our free book to go viral. We wanted our freebie to go viral. So we gave away contest prizes and all that, and that helped us to get the $70,000 people. Then if you opted in for the free book, you immediately saw a webinar that was like a week or 10 days out, our webinar number 1. And all of these had their own hooks and angles, by the way. Look, remember, yes?
Sorry to interrupt. What's after replay 2 in the corner there?
Webinar 3.
Webinar 3. What's after webinar 1?
Encore 1. So now, can you structure this and do a launch that totally flops? Heck yeah. Right? So that launch was called, it was for Publish Academy. Every one of these webinars had a hook and an angle, had a reason, had something it addressed. I was carrying the narrative, the journey, the story. It's like a good season of Game of Thrones, right? It was there. You had a reason to show up. Every single one, you had a reason to show up. And I knew for a fact, if I don't sell you on webinar 1, but I can get you to show up for webinar 2, my chances of selling you go up. If I don't sell you still on webinar 2, but I can convince you at least to show up on webinar 3, my chances of convincing you and closing you go way up. And if I still don't get you, but I somehow convince you to show up on a Q&A where I will answer your questions live, man, at that point, if you've been on all of these, I'm closing you. I'm closing you on the Q&A. Because I'm going to ask you why are you not buying? You're going to tell me and I'm going to address your question. So this was all in a little bit over a 3-week period. So webinar 1 finishes, oh my God, you missed it, so we're going to do an encore. This is your chance to see it live. We'll do another one the next day. And then that's over, like, all right, well, you missed the ability to see it in a live environment, but it was so awesome, we're announcing a replay. Just, here, go ahead, watch a replay. Okay, awesome. Then the second day, last chance, we're moving forward. We're going to teach other stuff now. Last chance, day number 2, watch the replay. You watch the replay. And then the next day, it's like, hey, on webinar 1, we talked about how to make 7 figures by publishing a product on the internet. On webinar 2, we're going to talk about how to get your own product in 7 days or less. Because here's the thing. You came on this webinar, and you thought, man, this is awesome. A digital publishing business is great. Anik, you've convinced me. I see all these big numbers. I see the system. It makes sense. I like it. I get it. It's tangible. I understand it. But Anik, I don't have a product. I don't have a product. I already knew that. Going in, I knew that would be. The ones I didn't sell, the only reason they wouldn't buy is probably because they're like, well, what do I sell? I don't have a digital product. Great. How would you like a digital product in 7 days or less? Webinar 2 will teach you exactly how to do that. Right? You watch this enough, you'll probably be convinced that you can have a product, but on webinar 3, we went over, I don't know, like how to get your first 1,000 visitors, because maybe the biggest question you have is, well, okay, I get it now. I know how to get a product, but like, how do I get traffic? Once I have the product up, like, how are people actually going to come to it? By the time you're at the end of this, I've just made the entire business model so tangible for you. But the bigger reason that this worked wasn't just the psychology. The reason I did so many webinars is because I want something new to mail at all times to retain someone's attention. But that thing I mail has to also be carrying forward the narrative and the journey to get the sale. So I have to be building the whole picture and answering all their questions. So typically, I look at a launch like as follows. Let me see where we are on time. All right, cool. So typically, I look at a launch as follows. We're going to have what I call the pre-tease. And I'll talk about each of these in a second. Then we're going to have what I call the tease. Then we're going to have a pre-launch. Then we'll actually have launch, which is what we call at cart. Then I like to have a period I call the wow, and then I have a period that I call scarcity, and then you obviously close out. If you had to compartmentalize, just like psychologically compartmentalize launches, this is how they plan out. So in pre-tease, what am I going for? So what's an example of a pre-tease? An example of a pre-tease is when I'm just dropping the hints early on. Maybe it's a PS on an email. Maybe on my podcast, I'm saying, guys, something big is coming. Watch out for it. This is happening. Maybe on my YouTube, I'm popping up a video. Maybe I'm going live on my Facebook randomly and then emailing the live to my list. And on the live, all I'm doing is talking about, like, get ready, predictions are coming. I'm going to predict everything that's going to happen in 2019. Get excited, get ready. But I'm not saying much. It's really, really high level. It's very, you know, it's like a big actor coming out and saying, I got a big movie coming. And all his fans are going to be like, oh, that's cool. What is it? Well, I don't know. It's got a big movie coming, so get excited. But at least he's got your attention. The person's got your attention, right? That's what we're trying to do here. We're just trying to get their attention. We want everyone to start thinking what's happening, what's going. Again, we want our prospects always asking questions, right? The more they ask questions, the more chances we have of selling them. So we move from the pre-tease into officially. So it all depends, okay, guys? A pre-tease can be a day or two, and it can also be a few weeks. Let's say I'm about to come out with a product that's like $10,000, and no phone call, no nothing. I mean, you got to pull your credit card out, and you got to give me $10,000 without talking to anybody. My pre-tease is going to be like a month. All right, I'm going to be talking about stuff for a month. I'm going to be dropping hints and dropping things for a month because you just have to be that much more ready, excited. I have to build that much more value. Versus like marketing with Anik, it's a $97 impulse purchase. Like my pre-tease is going to be like a couple of days, 2 or 3 days, if even that. All right, then we move into the tease. The tease becomes far more specific. So the tease starts to really say, so in the example of Copywriting Academy launch, the tease was, listen, the tease was my story. The tease was the #1 skill that's allowed me to be successful the way I am today. The very #1 skill that's allowed me to be successful is copywriting. And most people never talk about it. Most people never teach it. Most people never think about it. So I'm going to. That's all I got. How many of you are interested? You want to learn about copywriting? Type in yes, type in me, type in the #1. Leave a comment below this video. Creating engagement and getting people excited about the topic of copywriting. All right, so that's the tease. And from the tease, now this is the part, by the way, that 90% of launches I see done, they don't do the pre-tease or the tease. So I can genuinely tell you that there's a big secret sauce to my success in my launches that happens in this area right here. It's the part where I'm gathering audience. I'm bringing people in, and I'm putting them in a room. I'm making my room bigger and bigger and bigger. The bigger my room, the bigger the launch at the end of the day. So now the pre-launch, see the pre-launch is pretty straightforward. Depending on the price of the product, you do your pre-launches a little bit different. I mean, I have certain playbooks I play from for pre-launches. If it's an expensive product, if it's a less expensive product. But in the pre-launch, you essentially need to start making the product tangible for the person. So in the pre-launch, you need to start specifically addressing components of your pitch. The easiest way to look at it is if you've got a webinar that you're going to be using to sell your product, split the webinar into 3 chunks, and you got to cover all 3 chunks. So I'm breaking down an hour-and-a-half presentation into 3 presentations that are 30 minutes each. Not the same words, not the same slides, but the same underlying messaging, the same underlying thought patterns, so that when you watch the webinar, it's all like, yeah, I got it. Yeah, I'm there. Yes, I'm excited. Yes, I get it. So the webinar will add more excitement to it, or the eventual pitch will add more excitement to it. The pre-launch, so most common pre-launches you see done are people hand out free books, right? And so the free book, but here's the challenge. How many people actually read the books they buy? Very few. How many people actually read the books they get for free? Even fewer. So easiest way to fail in a launch is you look at someone, you launch hack me, and you're like, oh, you started with a free book, so I'm going to give a free book. Well, I start with a free book, but then I follow up with a sequence of videos. I start with a free book, but I incentivize you reading it. I start with a free book, and then follow up immediately with a webinar that I don't sell anything on. It's just a free content webinar. because I have to force you to see. What's funny is a free book is the best giveaway. You're going to get the highest opt-in rates because it's instant gratification. People get excited about it. It's just that people love buying books and getting books. They just don't like reading books. So now, it's true. And so as a marketer, I'm not out to change the way the world works. I understand that logic that people love books. They love to buy them, they love to download them, but they don't love to read them. So now I have to adapt to that. Okay, so I use the book for its purpose, to get the lead, or to get them interested, to get them in my room. But once they're in my room, it's up to me to get them to pay attention, right? So once they're in my room, what do I have to do to get them to absorb the content, information? Let me put videos out. Let me do a free webinar. Let me do some free content. Let me hit them up with. So I got this room, right, of people, even in here right now. I bet you we've got in this room people that like to read. We've got likes to listen to podcasts, and we've probably got someone who likes to watch YouTube videos. Like, you got people in this room that say, no, man, I'm not going to do either. Like, for example, me, you want a chance at me consuming your content, get me into a live environment. That's the only way I'm going to do it. I don't have the, I'm not going to watch a video. I might listen to a podcast, depending on where I am in my life. So as a marketer, I got to come in and say, okay, I got to make sure I have content. I'm gonna be able to get my message out to the ones who are readers, to the video watchers, to the live attendee type people, the webinar people, the podcasters, to this. Now again, I'm giving you. You might look at this and say, Anik, you don't always do this. Yeah, I don't. It's a lot of work, right? So I'm giving you how to do the most epic launch in the world, where you're catering to absolutely everybody and everything, but you can still do really good launches without doing it. But this is why affiliate-driven launches work so well, because it's like you got this massive sales force out there. You're gonna have podcasters who are like, you know what, we got the podcast hemisphere. We're gonna launch podcasts. We're gonna interview you for this. So anyone who loves podcasts will find the podcast. You got the YouTubers that are like, we're gonna make a bunch of videos with you, a bunch of training videos with you. You got your webinar people that'll say, oh, we're gonna do webinars with you. So you as a product host, you just kind of have to be present to supply information. But when you're doing it yourself and you don't have those affiliates, you still need to tick off as many of those people. Now, launch time is the same as value time. All right? So what I mean by that is most of the time, if someone was completely not interested during your pre-launch, the chances of you selling them or now getting them interested during a launch is very little. I'm not saying it's not there. It's just very little. That's like someone coming to me right now, and they walk in to the Learn Center, and they're like, you've got to see these golf clubs. They're the most epic golf clubs ever. Seriously, they're breaking records. They're this, they're that. This is what Tiger Woods uses. I'll be like, whoa, that's cool. Like, awesome, Tiger Woods uses them. Like, let me hold it. And then I'll say, okay, you can have it back. They're like, we're giving you 90% off discount because we love you. You're Anik. So we're going to give you 90% off right now. It's $100. And I'm like, I mean, I don't golf. Like, come on, they're the best. They're the best. I don't golf. They're all right, 95% off. I'm like, I don't golf. I just don't need them, right? So you're just not going to sell me. But if I'm interested, right, you come to me with something that I do that I'm interested in, I'm excited, so you start, so now let's say I'm a golfer. You got these golf clubs under there, completely, you know, they're record breaking, they're this breaking, they're the largest innovations in our space right now, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And 90% off. Bam. I don't need to hear more. Bam, done. Let's do it. So I'm already sold because I'm interested in it, and you spend some time presenting to me the value of it. So we were in pre-launch. In that case, you go from pre-launch to launch very quickly. But launch is all about, listen, you give me $1, I'll give you 10 back. Like, that's the at cart. This is the time where you drive home. You've given me all your time and attention, but so with Marketing with Anik, the day we went live and our sales page was up, we did not talk about marketing predictions anymore. Time for that is gone. Now we are talking about, do you understand what it's $97 freaking dollars. You know, do you understand what 15 weeks means? Do you understand that's 30 hours of training, most advanced training with Anik? Do you understand it's this? Do you understand? Have you looked at the 15 topics? We already listed them all. Go to this page, scroll down. You'll see all the 15 topics there. So we are all about the merits of the offer, completely understanding that if the whole idea of 15 weeks with me did not appeal to you, there's very little I can say now to get you interested in spending money with me. If you just don't want 15 weeks with me, then you just don't want the offer. And that's okay. We'll get you on the next one. And now we have this little period. This we don't always do. It's the wow period. You're going to have a lot of people that went through your pre-launch. They're in your launch, and they're just sitting there, and they're like, now, the higher the price, the more people you have sitting at the edge. They want it. They're thinking about it, but you know, it's $2,000. Like, I don't know. What if? What if it sucks? What if it's this? What if it's that? So there's still, at the end of a launch, there are still a group of people, great people, lots of buyers there, lots and lots of buyers, many forgotten, by the way. So here are the two things I see done the worst in most launches. I see this done bad, and I see this done bad. So funny enough, the beginning and the end is, because we all know the words pre-launch and launch. But most people don't do the end right, and most people don't do the beginning right. And those are the two parts, so if you do, I think they have the biggest impact on your launch. So you got a lot of people that are sitting there. Why does someone not buy, even though they have the money? They have $2,000. Maybe they have to stretch themselves, but they have it. They've been involved in your pre-launch. They want it. They love the content. They like you. They're excited. It sounds like something they want. So tell me, why would someone not buy?
The value's not there yet in their mind.
The value's not there. There's another way to look at that. Typically, if the value is completely not there, you would have lost them completely. They would have just walked away, and they would have said, that's, you know, that's like, again, if the guy says the golf clubs are $10,000, I'm like, you freaking out of your mind. There's no chance in heck I can even afford that, so I'm out. But but yes, there are some people that still say I need more. But the biggest reason that someone's still sitting on the edge is because the risk is still, they still find it's either even or it's still greater than what they perceive to be the benefit. So it does come back to value in some ways.
I meant, sorry, that's what I meant. Not
Yeah.
value of not valuable enough product, but just they're not seeing enough value from what they're getting.
To step up and, yeah, exactly.
That's what I was thinking, like, as far as, like, if I make this investment, would I get, I mean, I know it's not guaranteed, but the chances of me getting my return.
Yes, are higher than my. So the wow is when you do something that annihilates that. So in a launch, I call it the golden goose. Sometimes I release the golden goose in the webinar itself, like it's my final bonus. The golden goose is my final bonus. And sometimes I will wait till the end of a launch. Now here's the deal. Again, in Marketing with Anik's launch, I did not do a wow. This is freaking $97, man. Like, what am I going to do? If $97 is, you know, there is no risk at $97. So it's just, I'm not going to do it, right? We had scarcity because we were closing it down, but the wow wasn't there. But in a product that's $2,000, so you're sitting there and you're like, I don't know, $2,000, I don't know. And all of a sudden you're like, you know what? For the next 2 days before we close down, for the last 48 hours, payment plan. You feel risk? I get it. I'll give it to you for a third of the price. You can pay the other 2 payments in the future, and if you hate it, don't pay the other 2 payments. Now all of a sudden, it has to be, right? If they were sitting here at $2,000 and they felt like the value and the risk was the same, and you drop the initial investment by a third, you have literally forced the value to go higher. So you're going to grab a whole crap load of people that were sitting on the fence, and you're going to dump them in. If you have another reason, then that also will help, right? So again, a lot of people will look and see the tactical thing of, oh, I get it. You know, sometimes, not all the time. And if you do it every single time, you're going to end up losing out. So you can't do it every time. But sometimes we do it at Learn. We announce a payment plan at the very last 48 hours. And so people will say, oh, I get it. That's the structural thing that Anik does. But very few people actually say, like, why did I do that? And many a times I wouldn't do it. Based on the sales coming in and how fast they're coming and the volume, if I'm getting a ton and I don't feel like I have a lot of people sitting on the edge, then why should I do it? Why reduce my cash flow by 70%? by offering a payment plan. But if I feel like, you know what, I really do feel like there's still, like with Copywriting Academy, that was where this whole thing came out. I'm like, you know, so many people probably are listening to me saying, it makes sense, Anik, I get it. You're right, copywriting does seem important, but I don't even have a business. I don't have anything. Is this really what I should be spending my money on first? Now, I know it's yes, but they don't necessarily believe that. So I have them thinking that at $700. Most likely, if I drop it to $300, they're going to step up and say, you know what, all right, Anik, I trust you enough. I'm convinced enough through all of this process that you're right. I'm going to go in for it. So I'm going to grab up all that low-hanging fruit. Yeah.
Would it be like maybe they're more attached to current money than their future money? So it's like you pay $297 now, you can pay that something, you can pay the balance in the future. So it's like from $700 now it's $297.
Yeah.
And that price doesn't seem so big. Right.
Absolutely. And you got a bunch of people who maybe $697 or $797 or $2,000, maybe that's the max they have on the card. You're going to max out their whole credit card, and they're sitting there thinking, I want this, but I don't know if I can sit with a max credit card or whatever. Or, God, you know, $2,000 is a lot to tell my wife. Like, she's not going to be happy about that. But all of a sudden, you're like, hey, you can start for $600. You're like, okay, that I can work with. Like, so it just depends. That doesn't have to be the only thing. There's lots of things, right? So this is where you pivot. This is where sometimes during a launch, I'm listening. I'm on the webinars. I see the questions coming in. And I've had it happen before where I was like, you know what? For some reason, people are really, really, this was actually, ironically, what's that?
Black Friday.
Black Friday, yeah. Black Friday, we did it live while we were on the webinar. People were like, I don't want to buy the $2,000 package because I already have 3 of the courses. And I'm like watching the feedback coming. I'm like, okay, I'm going to leave a lot of money on the table because they're right. Why should they spend the full amount if they already have half the courses in the package? So we should allow them to buy each course individually. Took a break for 30 minutes, ran around, we got all pages built out, and we pulled, I don't know how many thousands of dollars out of that one particular Facebook Live. But exactly, so you have to sit and watch. I remember when we were doing the Amazon product launch, and we were selling someone else's, this is years ago, I was doing all these webinars, and I just, no matter how much we address this topic of, hey, we're teaching you how to choose awesome products, no matter how much we addressed it, it was a constant question. But how do I know what product? How do I know what product to sell on Amazon? How do I know what product to sell on Amazon? So towards the very tail end, we literally invested the time and energy. We sat with experts, and we researched, and we came up with a list of 50 products. And we built a beautiful PDF and everything, and we're like, here. These are the 50 products that we think you could start with. You can pick one of these 50. They're all test out. They're all, and it was gangbusters. It was awesome. It was actually something we released on the final day. That was ironically when we were trying to beat Rich Dad. And that was when the whole thing with Rich Dad happened, and we became friends with them. We were trying to beat them on the leaderboard. That was the ending bonus that we did, and it really made a huge impact. Ton of people got in and bought because of that. And then you have your scarcity. Never miss the impact of FOMO, fear of missing out. It's awesome. Yeah.
I just had a quick question going back to the wow factor. What's a good rule of thumb? If you're on a live webinar and the pace is slowed, your sales have slowed, is it 5 minutes, is it 15 minutes without a sale? Do you then go, okay, I feel like we've got our 80 or 90% buyers, now we need to do something extra to get those people off the fence?
So if I'm on a webinar, that depends on how long I've been pitching. So if I've been pitching for only 5 minutes and I just went 3 minutes, no sale. Well, sorry, if I've been pitching for 15 minutes, right, and I just went 3 or 4 minutes, no sale, I got a problem. There's something missing. I got to read those notes, and I got to see if there's a consistent question, an error in the processing systems, because it's just usually for the first, if I'm on a webinar, again, now that's like a different topic than just the launch psychology, but specifically on a webinar, if I'm pitching for the first 30 to 40 minutes of a pitch, you should see fairly consistent sales coming in. If you go too long of a period without sales, you just know you have a problem. People just aren't that excited. In which case, to be honest with you, many a times it's too late. On that webinar, it's too late. But you retreat, you pull back, you take the knowledge you learn from it, and you announce the next series, the next webinar, the next video, and you re-engage people to get them in. But yeah, if I'm on a webinar and I'm seeing a very direct question, like I'm not getting any sales and I'm trying to sell a $5,000 product, and I'm getting any sales, and everyone's like, please payment plan, please payment plan, please payment plan, please. I'm just like overwhelming, then yeah, I'm gonna say, all right, what can I do to get my team right now to announce a payment plan? But those kinds of pivots are pretty rare. What happened on Black Friday, like that, I think that's happened like once in like 4 or 5 years. That kind of a drastic pivot in a live environment. But many a times I've been on webinars and the webinar didn't convert, and I had to step back and say, what happened? Okay, let's take a step back. Let's regenerate buzz. Let's get people re-excited. Let's get them on a second webinar. Now I'm going to hit them a different way, and we've been able to solve the issue. But going back here to the last piece here, scarcity. Don't ever end a launch without scarcity. So, you know, and again here, I'm following the thumb pulse of, or the pulse of a list. So if it's dried out, you know, sometimes you either have a bad launch, you have a bad topic, no one cares, or you just did such a freaking bang-on job in the beginning of it that you just scooped up all the people. So if I have like a $97 product, that will actually happen. You'll scoop up all the top buyers in the beginning. Well, at that point, like sending someone 5 emails on the finale day is probably overkill because you're not seeing the pace of sales come in. But if you're still seeing a pace of sales, keep hitting them. You know, you got your 24 hours to go, 18 hours to go, 12 hours to go, 6 hours to go, 3 hours to go, 1 hour to go, 3-hour extension. Like, you know, you can find more reasons to mail people on that last finale, that last final day. And you have to make decisions based on the pace of what you're seeing happening, right? So if you send out an email that's like 12 hours to go and you got 1 sale in the next 2 hours to come, that's your list sending you a message like, hey, we don't care. And if that's the case, rather than double and triple and quadruple down and bug the crap out of them, pull back. Send out 1 more email with a few hours to go, but then go back and do the autopsy on what happened during that launch and make sure you still keep the relationship with that list so that you could regroup and do another product to them. Or launch the same product to them a month later but with a different hook and angle that they would actually care about, or a different pricing or a different something that they would care about. So with Marketing with Anik, this was, you know, pre-tease was a day or 2, tease was a couple of days, pre-launch was a week, launch was a week, was it? About a week. And then we didn't do the wow, so it just didn't need it. Scarcity was a day. Usually a scarcity is like the finale day. So the whole launch, even though it was a $97 product, the launch that you physically saw was 2 weeks, but once you add the tease and the pre-tease, it was about 3 weeks. And so most people would never think that, but I can still tell you I got my sales because of this, not because of this. I got my sales because of all of this, because of the messaging in the beginning, because I gave people a reason to care and a reason to listen. I gave them a great story, and you know, and you can connect things to. You should look at current events, what's happening. You know, it was 2018 going into 2019, so that was important to me, and so I leaned on that. All right, so what I want to do is I want to give you guys about 5 or 10 minutes. If you want, and I want you guys to talk amongst each other. We have, I'm just going to leave you with the bare bone basics, okay? We have a product launch coming out in March. It is called Physical Profits. It is a product all about how to sell and build a business on Amazon. It is by an awesome, awesome, awesome guy. His name is Dave Kettner. He has been doing this for years, 7, 8, 9 years. He's been on Amazon. He's done millions and millions of dollars in sales. He's now a learned, published expert. The whole course is about him. It's not an Onyx and God course. If anything, I'm playing host. I will talk in the beginning and shut up. It's all him after that during the series. Product price is probably around $1,000, $997. Could be as high as $1,497. I don't think it'll be any higher than that. So it's either $997 or it's $1,497. And that's it. You have free reign. There is, he has filmed the following. We have a free boot camp. We don't have a free book. It's probably too late to try to work on that this time around, but we do have a free boot camp. We have a 7 or 8 video series he did, awesome little free course that introduces people on how to use Amazon to buy. I purposely did not walk you through the Copywriting Academy launch just yet, the psychology of it, because I feel like some of it may actually apply to the Amazon one, and I want to make it that easy on you guys. So we'll come back afterwards, and I'll highlight how I did the Copywriting Academy launch. Any questions? Smart.
So Armand has a question, and it's how do you decide how to layer the psychological techniques within the launch, like FOMO, scarcity, exclusivity? Or do you employ as many as possible?
As many as possible, Armand, because that's just like, it has to be done skillfully. It has to be a story, right? Yeah, okay. So the question was, how do you decide how to layer these things on? The exclusivity, the scarcity, and the wow factor, like, or do you just throw as many things as you can at it? So Armand, the answer to that is a good question, by the way, is that everything has to make sense. It has to feel like water flowing. You can't jam things in, which is precisely why I said, if something isn't working, like if your last scarcity day, no one cares, then pull back. Don't say, this is where the pivot comes in. Because you had written or planned for 4 or 5 emails on the final day, doesn't mean you have to send all 4 or 5. Also doesn't mean that you don't send 8, right? So what happens is, I'm going through the launch, I'm feeling the list out. I'm feeling my audience out. Am I gonna hit the numbers that I thought I wanna hit? If everything is looking good, then I'm gonna stay to plan. If everything is looking above, then I'm gonna question whether I need to do the wow. Because most of the time, for it to be a wow, for it to be a golden goose, for it to be something awesome, it probably requires a lot of commitment from you. So if it's a payment plan, you have to be willing to forego a lot of cash flow for 30, 60, 90 days. I mean, that's, it's not a joke. You will lose a lot of those payments, so I don't necessarily always want to do it. Sometimes I'll have to announce like a free workshop or a free boot camp. That means time. Time is money. I don't want to just give up my time. So if everything is rocking out and kicking butt, maybe I don't need it, and I forego it. But then the scarcity is there because, I mean, obviously, if everything's kicking butt, let me like really drive home FOMO. So the layering is something that you get used to and you learn, and it's very different by audience. A prime example, all of this, throw in the trash when I'm talking to my Learn Master students. All of it. Like everything I just said doesn't apply to my Learn Master students. And you're like, seriously? And I'm talking about, we can sell products to our Learn Master students when they're out that are $7,000, $10,000, $20,000, and none of that applies. None of it. Why? I mean, their level of commitment is so freaking high already that it would be embarrassing to try to pre-launch someone. That's like, it literally is like, imagine you go up to your best friend and you're like, hey, I would like to show you something that's amazing today. I want to show you this pen. It can do this. Your friend would be like, what the hell is wrong with you? Like, shut up. It sounds weird. Versus you saying, Joe, check this out. Awesome pen. Right? Joe, thanks for catching my, yeah, it's a good catch, Joe. It's pretty good. You didn't know that was coming. So, but I throw a pen at him and he's like, what's this? I'm like, a pen kicks butt. And I walk out and he's like, cool, where do I get it? That literally could be a sales transaction. So with masters, we've achieved so much of the sales process. Trust, done. I mean, they spent a ton of time and money and energy. Relationship, done. Credibility, pretty much done. Their level of interest, they're damn vested in becoming a successful entrepreneur. So anything we can do to help them along, they're in. Okay, the ability to spend, pretty much done and rectified. We know that they're at the upper echelon that entrepreneurs, the income earners, are the ones that have access to capital. So we've addressed so much of it, and we have to, like literally with most masters, I've shook their hands and been in front of them and talked about their lives, talked about their children, talked about their families. At that point, I'm just not going to pre-sell and sell them. I'm just going to say, this is what I have available. Do you want it? And we're going to have the best conversions ever. So going back to Armand's question, like in that case, I'm not layering crap. I'm just putting it out there. So, and that's what happens with Apple, right? Apple releases a product. They do a 45-minute presentation that says, here's our product. It does everything other companies have already been doing for 2 years, but it looks better. And so, mind you, I'm a big Apple fan, but that is what they do. And then they have the nice graphics and the moving image, and then it comes out, and there's big lines outside. Apple doesn't need to sell it. It would look really weird. For Black Friday, this was their first year. We're doing a Black Friday sale. I was like, really? pretty surprised. I'm shocked. They've never done a Black Friday sale because they think it demeans their brand. They don't want to do it. They don't need to do it. Their users don't require it. They don't need to play in the same game as other people. And when the Black Friday sale came out, I was like, well, that was just a joke, because it was like, spend this much, you get like a gift card or something to spend back at Apple. And I'm like, all right. So, but again, when you go back and look at their Black Friday sales, they went through the roof because their users are like, hey, cool. Like, we love you so much, we'll buy whatever. So layering is highly dependent upon the audience you're talking to.
That was probably a wow for them.
What's that?
That was probably a wow for them.
That was a wow for them. Exactly.
They were already there.
Yeah.
I'm gonna buy Apple Watch anyways, and I get a gift card.
Exactly. Right. So that's a great example. So they're already thinking about it, and they might be thinking like, do I wait? Might be thinking like, I want to buy. My kid's been asking for an Apple Watch. My other kid's been asking for a laptop. And then all of a sudden, it's like that comes up. They're like, oh my God, I can use like that money to buy the laptop or whatever. That a little bit incentive in us to push them over. But yeah, it's a good question. Anything else from inside the room? No? Anything else from the?
So here's a question on like utilizing free books, which aren't really essentially free because they have the shipping and handling. Like, what was like the percentage of people actually biting on that? And I know that's a really specific question, but like, what's your reasoning, I guess, behind?
Okay, so I'd actually like to do a whole session on the book thing in the future, because there's tons that we learned, good and bad. But in case the question is, what was my reasoning of doing a free book launch, even though there is a cost attached to it?
Right.
Okay, so the reasoning for doing a free book launch, even though there's a cost attached to it, is to get a buyer lead. So the truth of it is, and I think most people think this is marketing talk, but it's actually true, we lose about $4 or $5 for every book bought. By the time you pay for the book printing, fulfillment, shipping, it's about $11 to $14. So if I'm collecting $7.97, I'm actually going loss pretty quickly. The reason, okay, so for example, first and foremost, everyone loves books. We talked about this. People love books. There's this innate value in a book. The prime example I give of that, so if you want to talk about psychology, hear this. This is a prime example. I am in my, so my family has known me, we have a very close extended family. They've known me, since I started the business. And a lot of them are on my list. A couple of them might be watching right now. They're on my Facebook. They see everything. So they know that I'm successful, right? They see my fancy cars and all of that. So at some point, at least 5-10 years ago, like I would think, hey, I'm younger, like I should impress you. Like that's pretty cool, right? But they're just like, hey, good for you, all good. I buy my new house. So I just bought this beautiful home. It's beautifully decorated, and we're doing a housewarming party. They're gonna come in. I expect them to be like, wow, you're awesome. Your house is so cool. And they did. But they walk into my office, and they look at the wall, and they say, what's that? And what I had my 4 book covers, or 3 at that time, 3 book covers framed in a really nice frame. And I'm like, they're like, what book is that? Why do you have it framed? I'm like, I wrote it. You wrote a book? And I'm like, seriously? They're like, oh my God, hey, come here. Hey, come here. Look, he wrote a book. He's an author. And I'm like, that's what impresses you? Do you want me to show you my garage? Do you want me to show you like cool stuff I have? Like all the Business Week award, this, that, TEDx talk. They're like, you wrote a book. I'm like, do you know how easy it is to write a book? Like anyone can write a book. Anyone can self-publish a book. That right there, that is why a book campaign works. It's that perceived value attached to a book. I don't understand it. I never will. I don't think I'll understand it ever as a marketer. But that doesn't mean I'm going to stop using it. People love books. So Circle of Profit was literally one of the things that propelled this company to the next stage. It was crazy. And in hindsight, I did the autopsy on that thing, and I learned, oh my God, why have I not written more books? And then I wrote Escape, but I missed out on one. Like Escape did amazingly, but it could have done 10 times better had I really captured the true reason why Circle of Profit did so good. See, again, I made my own mistake. I thought book funnel, put a book funnel out. All book funnels must be awesome, right? Well, Circle of Profit was about a specific business model. So when you bought Circle of Profit, I talk about email marketing. Guess what you say? How do I do email marketing? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Here's a course on how to do email marketing. It's like, and then you go to that course and it talks about how awesome digital publishing is. And you say, how do I do digital publishing? Well, I'm so glad you asked. Here's a $2,000 course on how to do digital publishing. And then you get into that and you're like, ah, man, this sounds hard. I need some help. I'm so glad you asked. We have a workshop where we work with you and get your business up and running in a week. Thank you. So it's such a seamless flow through the funnel. So every book buyer was worth like $150 to us. So in 3 months, think about that. So I may have lost $4 or $5 up front to send you that book, but I know that in 3 months you're worth $150. And on Facebook ads, it cost me what, $30, $40, $45 to sell a book. So I'm gonna make like 300% ROI on that book sale, plus the credibility that I get. People walking around instantly knowing I'm an authority in my industry because I wrote a book.
What's the rule of thumb for break even on a free book offer? That's going to cost you money, right? Is it 30 days that you feel like, hey, if we can recoup the break even cost of the book?
It has to be 30 days because there's an actual hard cost and it's pretty high. So because you have to pay the fulfillment company, you have to pay the printing costs, and you have to pay Facebook. All of those guys want to be paid within 30 days. So unless I have cash to go negative on, I got to be paid back to break even at least 30 days. The thing is, when it's not a book and it's all digital stuff, I can afford to stay a little bit longer in the negative because I don't have necessarily hard costs like a book. But Circle of Profit was in profit within 14 days, right? But Escape wasn't. Escape isn't. And the reason is Escape lacks specificity. It's a great book, but it teaches you how to be an entrepreneur. Well, what the heck do I upsell you after that? Because if you buy Escape, and then I say, hey, you want to build an email business? Half the people that bought Escape are like, I own a contracting company. I own I own an agency. I own a baking shop. I own this. And then you're like, oh, well, you don't need an email business. So the funnel the average value of Escape book buyer was far less than even half of the Circle of Profit book buyer. Hence, that funnel kind of fiddled out. Now, was I damn proud of the book? It's an awesome book and it needs to be there. But the psychological comparison, where the funnel, actually, if you look at the funnel of Escape, tactically, it's a better funnel. The videos, the funnel's better. It's deeper. We actually have more offers in the company now, deeper down the line, super tickets, $5, $10, $15, $20,000 products that we never even had when we did Circle of Profit. Yet, it couldn't even compete to Circle of Profit because of the underlying psychology. It had nothing to do with the tactical structure of the funnel. It had everything to do with the messaging and how you're getting someone from A to Z. Does that make sense? Like, is everyone capturing that? Because literally that message is the underlying, is what I want you guys to walk away with today. Cool. All right. Instead of doing more questions right now, I really do want you guys. So here are again, you wrote down, right, all the specifications. The only one other one I was going to tell you is that it's happening in March of this year. Ideally, you have 3 weeks. It could be 3 weeks and 2 days. So 3 weeks, don't count the pre-tease. The pre-tease can cross over 3 weeks, it's fine. But from tease to end, you have 3 weeks. The goal is, so I want you guys to get down to numbers, okay? I want you to process numbers. Now, you don't have those numbers from me yet, but I think between Amanda and Samad, maybe we'll be able to throw some numbers, and I'll come and I'll drill holes in your numbers later. But let's say the goal is to transact. Note how I said transact. Not sell, but transact $300,000.
What's the difference?
Good question. What's the difference? Who can tell them?
Transact is the money that you actually collected. It's not that's not the opportunity. Like, it's the full payment plan. Like the payment.
So if you decide to do a payment plan, I want to transact $300,000. So if you end up selling a bunch of people at a third pay, then I only collected a third. That make sense?
Yeah. Is there any other scenario where it wouldn't be the same other than payment plan?
That it wouldn't be the same?
Sales and transact?
No, should be the same. Other than payment plan. All right, so who wants to lead the group?
I guess so.
Oh, all right. There you go. Go for it, Sean. All right, come on up. I'm gonna hand the mic to you.
Oh, like that.
Yep.
Well, you're just rallying the people. It's all right. You're not. Let's all give Sean a big round of applause for stepping up. Yes.
Wow.
He's regretting it now.
Jumping to the deep end on this one. Wow.
Oh wow, we're gonna be going over today, but that's all right. That's good. All right, so take 10, 15 minutes, and I will be back.
Okay.
All right. You don't have to get too detailed, by the way, guys. Just get the general structure down, but do at least maybe calculate some numbers to know and be able to reverse engineer to see, like, do we have a chance at that $300,000 or not? Do the math. All right, back a little bit. What were the specifications?
The specifications, it's physical profits. It's for Amazon. It's how to get an Amazon business going. The price point is going to be either between $9.97 and $14.97. We also have a free boot camp. It's going to launch in March. It's going to be a 3-week launch, and the transact goal is $300,000.
So just for sake of simplicity, because we were given two price points, right?
Yes.
So just actually to be conservative, we might as well say that we're going to just launch at $997 if we want to actually just potentially try to see if we have a shot at getting $300,000. We can actually say that we can go to low
Okay.
price point. and
Wait,
then-
I'm sorry. We're still rolling, right?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. All right.
And
So
I'll just try to repeat.
yeah, that's what I was gonna. Okay.
Oh, okay.
So-
So Ari can talk louder. You want to just have his
Oh, just stand closer to her.
Let me scoot over here. All right. Wow. All right.
All right, so I'm proposing that we actually just do the math off the $997 price because it is the lower price point, and if we can hit $300,000 off that price, then we would definitely hit it off of the $1497.
Right.
And so the first step then is to actually calculate the number of sales that we need. 300.
No, no.
Math right there.
No, it's probably
I
what
pulled out a calculator and everything.
three. What it should be like 303, 305, something like that. You need. Yeah.
But you're also making the assumption that everyone's doing the payment plan, the full pay, right?
Correct. We're assuming there's a payment plan.
We're assuming there's a payment plan. You could do I was gonna say a downsell, but we don't really have a downsell that could be released.
Well, we just need to be able to pivot so
I
we
would
can.
say, yeah, I would say let's plan, like, the payment plan will still be part of our WOW, whether we use it or not, is something that we can decide in the moment.
Okay. So, how many sales would we need? 305. Say it?
You'll need 200.4 units sold for $14.97.
No. We're doing the 997 though.
Then
No, it's not 300 exact. 3.
It's pretty close. 300,000 divided by 997 is about 300 something point.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So 303.
But we're also,
At most, we're gonna need 900.
well, I was gonna say, just from numbers that we do have, we can assume that just because it kind of calculates the payment plan in there, because you do collect some up front,
Okay.
we can assume about 700 per sale at 997
700 per
to
sale.
transact.
Okay.
So it might be easier if we do like whiteboard, because I guess everyone's still watching us.
Yeah.
right now.
Okay. You're right. You're right. Hey, David, can you bring it to the whiteboard, please?
Is the payment plan average like 3 payments?
It's usually always payment plans, yes, 3 payments, and we can do just from this historical data. If the price point's at 997, we know we transact about like
Can you get on here?
like 700, say like number for like the overall sale. So we need to do 300,000 divided by 700 to get our transact number. Exact number of sales. We need sales.
Okay. So from.
If they were all doing payment.
All right. So what we have. Which one's best? Amanda, you might need to slow it down just a little bit for everybody else.
So yeah, so let's
All right.
actually just we probably need some definition.
And 28.
Yes.
429.
All right.
I was actually thinking that because I was thinking about half. Because it should be average if you got payment plan and then you got one full price.
All right. So our price plan, we're gonna do
About half.
997, right?
Yes.
All right.
And then we can say average collected at cart is about $700 per sale.
All right. So the average is. Say it again. Sorry.
$700, and that takes into account that some people are going to do one pay, and some people are going to do the payment plan.
Okay.
So then we're just going to, if we divide out 300,000 divided by 700, we need essentially, let's just round up to 430 sales is our target.
Okay.
You're all right, we're good.
Yeah, the target's going to be. All right, I'll read it off once I write it down. All right. And you said the target is going to be. Say it again, please, Amanda.
The target will be about 430 sales.
430 sales.
That's a lot of sales, guys.
We got it.
We got it.
All right, so hopefully I'm repeating it right, just so everybody else could understand. Like I said, the course is physical profits. We're going to stay conservative at 997 at an average of $700 per sale because of a possible payment plan, to actually collect because of a payment plan. And then so in order to go off the average, we need a target of 430 sales in order to cross the 300,000.
Correct.
Okay. So far, we're all caught up. All right.
We're all
We're
cut.
good. So far, so good.
So we understand how many sales we would need. So what would be the next thing? We go into the, what, the pre-tees?
Sales page, maybe? So we know how many people get there.
Yes, we can. Yeah. So you want to start working backwards. Yep. So if
Which is
you
what,
start working.
1%?
So usually from a webinar, we can actually, typically from just a general webinar, we can probably do 5 to 7% if we're actually on a live webinar. So
5 to be safe.
5 to be safe. There.
All right, so Jimmy, what was your question?
The conversion rate of the sales page.
Conversion rate of the sales page?
Conversion rate of the sales page.
Basically, reverse engineering
The whole funnel. So guys, if we actually just draw out the funnel, it might be easier to see. Too bad we don't have our big whiteboards.
Well, you could just do it right here. Yeah, actually, that's perfect. Here you go. Do you want to?
Oh, I can guide you if you.
Yeah,
I
I'll,
can guide you.
Sean, just stay close to Amanda.
yeah, just stay right here.
Do you want me to?
Okay,
do you
okay.
want-
No. You could write. You could write.
So we actually just look at our funnel. So typically, our funnel is going to actually happen. This is just at cart, right? So typically, we're just for the webinar. You're just going to actually have your cart page. So because you're going to drop the link on the webinar, right? So this is going to take you to a place where they can actually buy. So this one isn't actually as intense as some of our other funnels. So it really is just going to be a cart page here. So and then originally they're just going to have 997. And then we can also offer a payment plan at the well stage. So it's we do for this we do 397 for if it's 3 times 3. Sorry, this is really hard to write on. So this is so if we want to have the conversion rate of our cart page, if we're saying that that's going to actually convert at 5%, and we need 430 sales.
It's about
How-
8,600.
I need 8,000 actually to show up live
Yeah,
or registered.
live.
I need 8,000 people to show up live.
No, 8,600.
8,000 correction.
5% of that is 430.
Okay, so we need 800 and 600.
8,600.
8,000. I wrote 8,000. Hi guys.
Hey, Stuart, how's the audio
So,
coming through? She's getting picked up pretty well.
Okay, so this is actually attendees. Whoa, no, I'm
So
losing
now
my.
we need the conversion rate of opt-ins to attendees.
Yes, we need to actually figure out how many we need to get registered, right? So now we could do the 2 webinar funnel, right? So that's been it's been pretty standard to do 2 webinars lately. So,
Okay.
so we can get, and if we get, how many we can get essentially. Okay, so now we have to actually kind of do show rates and stuff. So
with the webinar, is that 2 separate webinars or is it like a
2
repeat?
times, 2 different times.
No, I understand that. What I'm saying is the diagram before he had a replay. That's what I was asking.
No, it's still the same.
Okay.
Same exact presentation, just 2 different times for people to choose.
Okay.
So webinar 1. So if we actually want to, because we actually have done 2 separate webinars in the past, where they are 2 different topics. Because again, it's giving more people more reason to mail. So.
So maybe for this one, 2 separate webinars?
Yeah, I think so. So that means we have to get 2 different. Anik did say this took some practice.
What, using the Wacom?
Yes.
I think it seems like it's harder because you're left-handed.
I do think that might be a disadvantage. So we need to actually we're going to get people registered for 2 webinars, right? So we need to get a registration rate for each webinar. But we really want to we need to actually hit, now I'm erasing.
Yeah, your pencil's right up here. Yeah, that one right there. Yep.
So if we just kind of go off of just for the simplicity, like how many we need to get 8,000 people to actually show up. I mean, you're going to probably have, what, a 20% show rate maximum these days? So if we assume a 20% show rate, how many people do we need to get registered?
86 times 5.
86 times 5?
So about 50,000.
I feel like we have a problem here, guys.
Why?
50,000 people to get
43,000.
get registered? So this is actually a 20% assumption?
I'm getting 43,000
Yeah, that's what,
for 8,600.
Yeah.
The problem is
The
the
show
roll
rate,
rate.
the show rate's 20%. 20% of 43,000 is going to get you the 8,600.
Let's do it.
yeah, so, okay, so now I need that eraser back.
Are we still doing so is this going to resemble or kind of be similar to the FEB bootcamp, or FEB funnel, or the DPC funnel where we pitch the webinar first, or we pitch the bootcamp first? Or my question is the funnel strict, or is this our homework? Is like creating our own funnel in phases and hooks?
I think the question, really the objective is to get to our goal. Fail, epic fail here. I'm gonna just turn over the pencil. But, I mean, I get your, so yeah, the question is, the goal is we can get to 300,000 any way that we can, right?
Okay.
But we might as well go with we're taking a much bigger risk if we test something that we've never worked before, right? That we've never used before. Whereas if we go with something that we know that we've used before and it's worked for us, we're minimizing our risk.
That's true.
So we definitely know the 2 webinar funnel has worked. So essentially, in one of them, so we've done that a couple of different ways where we've actually dropped the boot camp on the first webinar. So again, you can't just actually have someone, you can't just keep reminding for someone to show up, right? Because the other way that we can improve this number is to actually get our show rate up, right? So if we can get more people to show up, then we actually, it actually gets our overall number down here, right? Because 43,000 is a lot of people to get registered for a webinar. Now, apparently it's definitely still doable, because for the early bird list, for the one launch, they had over 70-some thousand people. So just kind of back to that train of thought here, where to get someone to show up, you have to incentivize them, right? They're not just going to show up for any reason. So typically for the first webinar, to get them to show up, that's why we do the cash, that's why we do the free boot camp. You got to give them some reason to show up live, right? And then if you can get them in the room live, then you have a higher probability of selling them. So, so that's why. So just to get from 43,000, so to get here. Okay, so now we're at 43,000 just to get registered. So that means how many people would we need to actually click on our opt-in? How many clicks do we need? Because we're going to have a webinar registration page, right? So how many clicks do we need to get to this page? To get to, if we assume a...
Wait, so wouldn't it be the 43,000 here that registered and only 20% stayed for the actual webinar?
I'm just thinking in terms of how many clicks do I need to get to my opt-in page for them to register.
Okay.
So that way would determine our traffic.
What's the conversion rate of
Opt-in
opt-in page?
pages,
Or
25%.
So you need that times 4.
So we need over 120,000?
132.
132.
Yeah.
You
Here.
are correct. 132.
132.
132,000.
Okay, Jimmy, get on. You'll take the lead there.
so easy, is it?
Wait,
This is really hard. I think lefties might have more challenge here. I don't know. I'm blaming it on left-handedness.
It's not easy. It took me a couple weeks to.
wasn't expecting to do this live. I should have practiced.
I actually thought the cameras
Why
were.
don't you just use the
I can use the
board,
real old school. I can go old school.
and then on this camera we can just zoom in on this.
Yeah. School like the old school.
So I can just translate everything that.
And everything, yeah.
And we're sure we don't have a math there anywhere there, because this.
Say it again.
We don't have a math there anywhere, so we're assuming. So our assumption so far, we actually went with the lower price point because just that if we can hit it at that price point, we can hit it at the other one for sure. We are assuming a payment plan that we will drop during the WOW phase at $397. So our total transact at cart potentially is the average of $700. So then we took 700 divided by the 300,000 to get the 430 sales, assuming a 5% sell rate on, because for webinars it's about 5 to 7% conversion rate.
Well, it depends. So on a webinar where they've been pre-hyped for like a week and a half to 2 weeks, it'd be closer to 10%.
So 10%,
Yeah,
that would
but
get
on
our
a webinar that I just throw together and promote for a few days and people come on, 5%, 6, 7, 7%. But typically when you hear the big webinar promoters that are like, I get 10%, 12%, it's because they're doing webinars that have been promoted, buzz built for a while. So yeah, so it's a little bit higher.
So this one should be higher then. So we can probably actually go ahead and make our conversion rate then of our sales to 10%. So that changes our numbers to more in our favor.
4,300,
43.
21, 500.
What are you gonna use, 7%?
Yeah, she changes
5?
10.
10%? Okay.
So we need 100,
It's
we
like
need
rock and roll
4,300
this damn
attendees.
thing.
So registered.
1,000. No, what?
Okay. I'm gonna try to write what you have since it's so small.
Oh, I'm writing too small, sorry.
Yeah, because even if he zooms in, it's gonna be a little hard to see. How does that look, David?
I can write bigger.
Okay.
That is kind of hard to see, yeah.
Okay.
You got a shot.
No, I don't.
Now, was the goal to figure out the numbers? The
I
numbers
thought
of
you
the
said you
funnel
wanted
or
us
the
numbers or
psychology?
the whole
The
psychology?
goal is more to give me the funnel first.
Oh, you want the funnel
But-
first? Okay.
Yeah, I mean,
I like to work backwards, but
What's
yeah.
that?
I like to work backwards with numbers, but we can do
yeah,
funnel.
you can. I think you kind of have to go back and forth, but that's why I'm saying right now, like you're getting too tactical, maybe a little
Okay.
bit.
Mhm.
First is just try to understand what is the psychology of it. Like, how are you going to get a whole bunch of people that learn who are not currently thinking about Amazon
To start thinking about
to
it.
suddenly spend $1,000 to learn how to build a business on Amazon?
Gotcha.
What sequencing do we have to take them through to get them there?
Sean, can you repeat that? What sequencing do you have to do?
All right, we have to figure out what sequencing we have to do in order to get people who are within Learn in order to think about buying a product for $9.97.
So start
All
with
right.
advertising, right? Facebook ads.
I got fired.
The buzz.
Good job, Sean.
Yeah.
Nice job.
Okay. So are we saying just before numbers? Look at the funnel first?
Maybe both, because the psychology defines a funnel in theory, then the funnel, the math, numbers, everything works together.
Yeah.
Start with the clicks. How are you going to get I worked out the math. It's 86,000 clicks based on those numbers up there. How are we going to get 86,000 clicks to start, right? What type of advertising? Is it Facebook? Is it YouTube? How are you going to, is it emails to your list?
So an even simpler thought process is, so think of it this way, there's the different stages of a good launch outside of, like, we got the pre-Ts and the Ts, but like it can get even simpler than that. You've got the stage where you're inviting people into the room. You've got the stage where you're selling people in the room. And you've got the stage where you're telling everyone who didn't buy to leave the room. If you want a complete visual. right? So your launch, the psychology of a launch, there's how are you going to invite people into the room? What does that whole process look like? What's the room look like? What is the room? And then how are you inviting them in there? How many people do you then need to have in the room? That's where you would do the math. So you have to do both of them kind of together. How many people need to be in the room in order for you to have a good chance at creating $300,000 in transactions? And that's where you would start playing with numbers. You'd start playing with math. You'd start saying, okay, if I have this many people in the room, since it's a $1,000 product, I'm going to use a webinar. Okay, how many people can I have on a webinar at one time? Okay, how many people of that can I convert? Okay, that's not enough. I need 430 sales. I'll get a, even if I have a maxed out room, I'm going to get 100 sales from the room. Okay, what am I going to do now? I need 330 more sales. Where am I going to get that from? So that's how you kind of bounce back and forth, and the numbers do help dictate the decision. But if you get too driven on numbers, you'll get very focused on like 86,000 clicks, but I mean, I can get you 86,000 clicks right now in a Jiffy.
Which needs to be the right people.
Yeah, so, but where are they going? And how many of those 86,000 need to be in the room? Because not everyone's going to join me in the room. So like that's the psychology. So it's like, what am I saying to them to get them to come to the room? And then what does the room look like? Is it a free book? Is it a boot camp? Is it a webinar direct?
It's
Is
almost
it
the hooks and angles in a sense, right?
Yeah. But there's the layout, right? So I will usually do my layout first, and then I'll kind of like plug in, see if the hooks and angles plug into it. So there you go. In a full plan of a launch, you're going to look at the tactical, which is what does the layout look like? What's coming first? What's second? What's third? Then there's the numbers, because the layout has to support the numbers. And then the third piece would be the hooks and angles. Can I overlay hooks and angles into each part and process of this launch to keep people's attention at each part? And all three have to sing together. And sometimes you will see one thing won't work and you have to go back and revisit the other thing. So the numbers aren't working. Okay, I got to lay out differently. Or I have a layout that requires 7 webinars. I don't have enough hooks and angles to keep people through 7 webinars in a 2-week period. Okay, I have a structural problem. I need to change my layout.
So you said psychology, then you got to look at the tactical, and then it's
Hooks and angles, yeah. Those are the 3. You're going to interweave between the 3 again and again.
Basically technical and creative.
What's that?
Technical and creative.
Yeah, I wouldn't say technical so much. That takes this conversation down a different track, right? But the numbers are probably the technical part, which is like, okay, realistic expectations of how many people can I get into. So right now, like what I'm seeing is, looks like it's probably boot camp to webinar 1.
So I was thinking it was going to be, we're going to release the boot camp on webinar 1 to get them to show up live.
Okay.
Something free.
On webinar 2.
So, I would release the boot camp on webinar 1. So
Right.
That's the hook to get them onto live.
I got it.
So I want to give them a free course, probably cash for webinar 1 to show live, and then we get them, then we go to webinar 2, which is where we would actually sell. So card opens on webinar 2.
And what are the numbers that are below it?
So that was actually a number, how many people we would need to actually get. Essentially, the 4,300 was, they're actually outdated numbers based on, that was on 5%, but the 20% was actually how, the conversion, like how many people we would need to show up to get like attendance, to register on the webinar, webinar registration.
Okay.
And then the 132 was based on how many people need to get to the opt-in page to web, how many clicks, like the traffic we need to drive.
Traffic. Okay, got it.
When it comes to psychology, that would be our audience, right? And then how to talk to that audience.
It's all of it. It is that, right? That's the hooks and angles. Yeah. It's what you said, the how to talk to the audience. It's through the hooks and angles that you determine the audience. But it's not just that. So it's what she just mentioned, right? So we're doing a webinar 1. Well, how are you going to make sure that you max that room out? How are you going to, because see, what maxed out room carries forward social proof into day 2. The ability just to announce that, hey, we're sorry if you missed the webinar, because many of you did, because we filled up the room 10 minutes before the thing even started. That right there carries forward a whole aura to your launch for the rest of the launch. People are then seeing social, social proof. If other people want it, they want it.
And it drives that scarcity too.
Well, at the end, it drives the scarcity. So So the psychology of behind what Amanda was saying is, when she says, I want to give away I want to give away the boot camp at webinar 1, she's emulating what we had done in the Copywriting Academy launch. The reasoning for that was I wanted to make sure that I had as many possible people on webinar 1 as humanly. I wanted a maxed out room because I know that if you spend an hour with me where I'm talking to you about copywriting, I will convince you to buy that product. But if I try to tell you to show up for a webinar just so I can convince and sell you, you are a lot less likely to show up. So instead, I will do a webinar where I dangle and say, everybody who shows up, just for showing up, you're guaranteed a free course. So now my show rate will go up, and they know I'm not pitching anything, but I have an hour with you to really teach you the merits of copywriting, and at the end, get you committed, say, make everyone engage, commit, that you will finish this free course I'm releasing, and then you go sign up for the free course, plus I get 10 minutes on the live webinar to pitch you the next webinar, which is to get you committed to webinar 2, where I then drop the hint that there will be an actual pitch. Hey, you want to know more about how to work with me very, intensely on learning copywriting? Well, I'm going to give a select few of you an opportunity, but it'll be on webinar 2. You have to show up. So that is how I'm carrying the narrative forward towards a pitch, towards a sell. But because with copywriting, I was worried that not enough people, I've never talked about it, so not enough people are going to be interested in copywriting. And many people may even be like, I don't want it. So give me an hour. Give me a room, give me an hour to convince you not to buy my product, but to buy the concept that you need to become a copywriter. Once I have that, if I have 1,000 people in a room for an hour and I'm not selling you anything, I'm just giving you a free course at the end, I will convince a ton of those people by default by convincing them that they... So what I'm going to do on that first webinar is convince you that you need to learn copywriting. That's it. I'm not going to convince you to buy my product. I'm going to convince you that you need to learn copywriting. If I convince you on that, the next question you ask is, well, how do I learn copywriting? Well, I'm so glad you asked. I'm going to share exactly that on webinar number 2. Right? So all of what I just said, that's psychology. So the question is, why are we giving away the bootcamp on webinar 1? The tactical thing is, hey, we're giving away bootcamp on webinar 1. But the strategic thing is, like the psychology is why? What's the benefit of that? So here's what I propose since it's 1:11. Why don't we break, homework. So to everyone who's listening and watching in from the camera feed, or that feed, or wherever I'm talking here. Where are you guys?
Yeah, they are in that.
All right, you're here. What we're going to do, I can see myself. There I am. We're going to come up with a plan. That's what the team's going to do over the next couple of days. And this is a plan we actually need, and we need to solidify because there is this launch that's actually coming up. It's exactly like I promised you, behind the stage seats to actually see the marketing come through. We'll come up with a plan, and then someone in this team here is going to commit to making a video at the end explaining what the plan is, and we'll publish that video for all of you guys to watch, and that will bring today's session to an end. So you'll see kind of how this goes and how the eventual plan ends up being. Plus, we'll still be together in March. That's the cool thing. So as the launch is happening, we will actually get to see live results, analytics, pivots, all of that. So what are the 3 words?
Pivot, specificity,
The last year, specificity, and
Literally.
psychology.
Cool. I'm going to write them up everywhere. Pivot, specificity, and psychology. All right, with that said, thank you so much for being with us today, everybody. Our first session, I would say, was a pretty big success. We'll see you next week. We'll see you before that. One of our team members will deliver to you a video. It's going to take a few days. We want it to be masterful, so we'll deliver a video to you once it's even gone through me of what our physical profits, our Amazon product launch will look like, the psychology, the structure, the tactical, the estimated percentages that we're applying to everything, and hopefully you learn a ton from it, and we'll see you next Friday. Talk to you later. All right, so Um,